Previously, we created the appropriate files related to our GUI, or graphical user interface, that we are building for our application. We also created the data class, which is part of the data model of our application named item, which we will use later on when we add functionality to our application. In this lecture, we will build the user interface for the window and dialogues with which the user will interact. So let's get started. First, we're going to modify the Add Item Dialog UI. So I'm going to double-click under Forms, the Add Item Dialog UI, and we'll shift this around as needed. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to look exactly like mine, but hopefully you get it pretty close. So we're going to need 3 instructional labels. So I'm going to go over here to the toolbox over here, and down at the bottom we have display widgets. I'm going to grab label, and I'm going to take and drag, click and drag 3 of them onto the form. I'm going to change what they say, and I can do that by either double-clicking them and typing the text, or I can single-click them, and I can go over here to the properties right over here, and you will see that there is a text property under QLabel. I can change that. So I could do that here, and I'll just put product name and a colon. We'll make that a little bit wider, and we'll fix this in just a second. This one I'm going to double click. I'm going to put quantity, colon, and this one's going to say item image, colon. And then I'm going to control select all 3 of these, and I'm going to change the font size right here to 12. And I will make them bigger as needed. Just taking the handles on the side and making it larger, a little bit taller on the middle one at least. Okay. There we go. Nice. Now I need a line edit that I'm going to put at the top for the product name. So right here under input widgets, there's line edit. I'm going to put that right there, right across from product name. Make it a little bit longer. And for this one, I'm also going to set the font size to 12. Make it a little bit taller maybe. And I'm going to give it a name this time, an ID. So to do that, at the very top, it says object name is add item dialog for this thing, and when I click on this, it says it's just named line edit. So each of these get a default name. This is the name by which you will refer to it in code. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to call this one txt product name. txt product name. Make sure it's size 12. Everything's good on that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, across from the quantity, although I could make it another text field here, a line edit, I'm actually going to make it a spin box. So I go under, it's a couple under line edit, and I go and I create this little spin box here, and just match it up with the size over here. And I'm going to make the font size 12 again. And I'm also going to set some of its special values down in the lower right. There's a minimum and a maximum. And I'd like you to set the minimum to 1, because if they're adding something to the inventory, there should at least be 1 of them. Otherwise, why is it being added to the inventory? We'll go off of that running assumption. And we've got minimum of 1, and then maximum I changed to 1000. I want to make sure that you made the font 12, so it should be a little bit bigger. Good. And now I need a label that I'm going to put across from item image. So down again, display widgets. I'm going to put that right there, this label here. And for this one, for the label, I'm going to change its name. It's currently label_4. The other ones don't need names because we're not going to access those through the code. They're strictly there just for labeling, literally labeling. So over here, though, for this one, I'm going to change this one, LBL, to LBL image. A couple other things I want to do is I want to set the width and the height to 250. Under geometry, we have the width and the height. So I'm going to change those to 250 each. There we go. And I've got the label image name, 250. Don't really worry about the point size because we're not going to really have text there. In fact, I'm going to actually delete the text label text that's on it already because it will actually hold an image. Now the other thing that I want to do for the label image is to set the frame shape. The frame shape is under Q frame over here in this little green section. So it currently says no frame. For this, I'm going to actually change it to panel. So now it has a line around it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a button, a push button, onto here. And this is going to be for confirm add. So that's going to be near the bottom. We'll put confirm add. And I'm going to change that, of course, to have a slightly larger font. So 12. Make that bigger. And maybe kind of center it. We don't need it perfect, but just something like that. And I'm going to change its name to btn confirm add. So up here, object name, instead of push button, btn confirm add. And again, with these names, I'm using kind of a variation that's been used for quite a while. And this is based on a camel casing notation. So btn confirm add. And I would also like there to be another button underneath where I have item image. It should say load item image, and we will call that btn load image. So another push button right here. Load item image. Make the font size 12, and let's make the label accommodate that. Maybe move the labels over just a little bit here. Yeah, not too much. Okay. So far, so good. Oh, and btn load image. Btn load image is the object name. Looks good to me. Going to save that. Then I'm going to actually change. I did a Control S to save. I'm going to go over to Edit, and I'm going to open up the Update Item dialog. This one I'm going to make a little bit bigger also, right here. And for this one, I'm going to put a label at the top, which is, under Display Widgets. So this label at the top, I am actually going to access it programmatically, because every time you open up this dialog to interact and to edit information about this, it should display the name of the product at the top. So that's the only part you won't be able to change, would be the name of the product. You can change the quantity and the image associated with it. So right here, I'm just going to type name of item. And the user won't ever really see that because that's just really a placeholder. I'm going to make it size 12. A bit bigger there. Okay, and then I give it the name, LBL, item, name. Awesome. Now what we need is another spin box with quantity next to it, right? So I need to have another label right here that says quantity. And I guess we'll take care of the labels first. So we'll put item image right here, item image, and let me actually put a colon at the end there. Kind of hard to see, but I'll let you see it in just a second. We'll change it to size 12. That makes it a little bit better. Quantity. There we go. And maybe make that taller. There we go. Not too bad. And this is going to be very similar to the initial main window. So we've set the font sizes to 12 on all of these. I do need a spin box or a spinner named SB Quantity. So kind of the same thing that we had before. Make it a little bit taller and wider. And of course, change the font size to 12. This one is going to have SB Quantity right there. Good. LBL item name, SB Quantity. And then the item image is going to be on a label as well, just like before. So that right there, we will name it LBL. I'm doing it over here in the properties, of course. In this case, LBL image. And I'm going to change the font size to, I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm setting it to 12. I'm going to delete the font, though, immediately, so I guess it doesn't really matter. So you can skip that part. I'm going to hit Enter after I delete the text. And I do want to set the width and the height under geometry, again, to 250. So it takes up this whole screen here. Once I've done that, I'm going to have a couple buttons. So I need to have a push button right here, which will say load item image, just like the other one said. So very similar interfaces. Load item image, maybe move these over just a little bit. Change the font size to 12. And this one's going to be called BTN load item image. It's okay if some of the names overlap. They'll be in different scopes, basically, because this one is in a different dialogue, different form than the original. So that's totally fine. And then at the bottom, I will put a, let's make sure where this is. Okay, put it underneath the, oh, I forgot to set the panel on the image. We want that. So let's give it a frame, panel frame, over in the Q frame. So that's better. Make sure we don't forget that. There we go. So we can always see it. Now, what I want to do for push button, this push button is going to be confirm edit. Set the font size to 12. And we're going to name it BTN confirm edit. Taking it a little slow so you can follow along and so that I don't forget anything. All right, so name of item, quantity. And, oh, I want to set the minimum value on this, right? So minimum to 1, maximum to 1,000, just like I did over on the original main window. So minimum and maximum. See, almost forgot something. So we want to make sure we don't. We've got that item image, load item image button, confirm BTN confirm edit, and then the LBL image, since we'll be modifying this and also this other label at the top, but not these two. So these two can just have the generic label 2 names or whatever. It doesn't really matter. So we'll save that. And now I'm going to go back to the main window. So I'm going to go to Edit, and then Main Window, which is just sitting here. And I think I had said Main Window before, but I meant the Add. The Update window is like the Add window. So the main window is actually quite different from the other two. So this one right here is going to have a list box and several buttons, product name, and some other stuff. So we're going to put a list widget over to the left, and we'll call it LST products. So list widget is under item widgets. Don't do list view, although that is an option. There's many ways to create this project, in fact. But we're just going to do this, make this right here, and I'm going to call it LST products. We're going to create 2 description labels for the product name and the quantity, just like we've had before. So I'm going to scroll down, get my label here, and another label there. The top one will say selected product right there, and this one will say quantity right there. I'm going to control select both of them, change the font to 12, and resize them as needed. There we go. Okay, now those are the 2 descriptive labels. They're both size 12. I can move them a little bit closer, I think, to the list widget right there. And now I'm going to create 3 label widgets that will actually hold data, including the image, the product name, and the quantity. So on this page, you won't be able to directly edit anything. There will be a remove option, which we'll talk about. But I need 3 labels. So across from selected product, I'm going to put a label. Then one underneath, I'm going to put another label. And then, of course, a third one, kind of off near the bottom here, right there. And I will control click them all, change their font size. The last one doesn't really matter. Change the font sizes to 12, make it a little bit wider here for each of these. This one at the bottom, again, the font actually does not matter. We can delete the text out of this one. The quantity will be a particular number as well. That time we're using just a label instead of using the spinner because we're not allowing the user to actually change it from here. Okay, so this one at the top, make sure that we name it. And also, if you, let's say you click off of it and don't know how to grab it again, you can actually go over here to the component tree and click all of these, and it will highlight them. So this was called label 3 before. We're going to change it to LBL product name. All right, and make sure it's font size 12. And I'm going to make that a little bit wider. And I'm actually going to give it a frame, I think, just to make it a little bit easier to see. Maybe raise it a little bit, make it a little bit taller. And we've got quantity, the one underneath that. I'm going to kind of line up just a little bit and make that a little bit bigger. And for this one, I'm also going to put a frame around it. So change no frame to panel. There we go there. I'm going to make that a little taller. So far, so good. And now I'm going to drag, or actually access rather, the other label that I have here. This one definitely needs a frame around it. And it's also going to have its geometry changed so that it is 250 by 250. I'm going to drag it in, make it kind of line up right there. And that looks pretty good to me. I need a button at the very bottom, the button widget. It's going to be for removing selected products that you will select in this menu. So what I'm going to do is I will take the push button, put it at the very bottom here, make it a little bit wider so it kind of matches this list here. Don't have to, but just my choice here. And we're going to put remove selected product. I'm going to change the font size to 12. Looks pretty nice. Just reviewing and looking to make sure that everything looks pretty decent. Got that, okay. This and this. Make sure these have names. Oh, that one doesn't have a name. See, this is why we review. This one's going to be LBL quantity. And this one is going to be LBL image. Okay. The button is going to be BTN remove. And we've got font size 12 on all of these. Everything looks good. I'm pretty happy with that. So we've got most of the user interface done for the main window. I'm going to save it, Control S, or File Save. We've got most of the user interface done for the main window and the two dialogues. But before moving on, I'd actually like to issue you a challenge. I'd like you to create the file menu, which you can see in an image before you. The Q Creator interface is fairly intuitive for creating the menu system, so I'm going to let you play around with it and see if you can figure it out a little bit. You're going to create the top level file name menu, so that's the top level menu, call it File, and then 5 menu items listed underneath. So you've got the New Product, Edit Selected Product, Save Products, Load Products, and Exit. Now, I'm pretty sure you can figure that out, so I think you'll have a pretty good time if you've been paying kind of close attention to what we've been doing so far. I think you'll be able to figure it out. Also note that for each of the submenus, the file menu won't actually have an event associated with it, but the ones underneath will. So for the New Product and Edit Selected Product and Save Products, Load Products, and Exit, those will all be kind of like buttons in some way, whereas when you click them, it will cause some sort of action to occur. Okay, so pause the video, give this one your best shot. Come back when you're done, or if you need some help. I hope that went well for you. Let's work on this one together. So we're going to add the following to the UI, including the separators. So I'm going to make that File, and as soon as you do that, it allows you to start creating submenu. Now, again, this is part of the interface here. Okay, so this is not going to be what the menu looks like exactly when you open it. It won't say type here or add separator. This is for the interface for you to interact with it here. So for this one, this very top one, I will call that New Product. And for this one, I'm actually going to name it, instead of Action New Product, I'm going to call it Menu New Product, but you can really do whichever you want as long as you keep up with what you named it. So that's what I named that top one, Menu New Product. Now for this one, I'm going to put Edit Selected Product, and I'm going to select that one again, change its name to Menu Edit Selected Product. Double check to make sure the names are right. Menu New Product, Menu Edit Selected Product. For this one, I'm going to click Add Separator, so you double click that. You can always click it and delete it if you need to. I'm going to put Save Products. And I guess for this one, I'll just put Load Products, and then a separator, and then I'll put Exit. Then I'll come back around and change Save Products to Menu Save Products, right there. I'm going to go to Load Products and change that to Menu Load Products. And for this one, Exit, that one should be self-explanatory, Menu Exit. So the idea behind this is we should be able to click on New Product, and it brings up the Add Product dialog that we created. Edit Selected Product, if we have one selected in this list here, then what it should do is it should bring up the Update dialog that we created. Save Products should take all the data that we have in memory, save it to a file, and then if we open it again or change stuff and we want to go back to where we were when we saved last, we can go to Load Products. It's not going to let us pick a file name or anything like that. That could be a feature you'd want to add at some point. But here it's just going to create the file here, and if it doesn't exist, and put the names there, and then Load Products is going to reload that data into memory and update the internal data model as well as the view right here, what the user sees. So let's build this and see what happens. So if I go to Build All Projects, there's a little waiting on it to turn green in the corner. And then I'm going to go to Build Run. All right. And the thing that I will see, you notice this is the actual app in motion right here. This is the actual application. And for right here, you'll notice if I hit remove, it doesn't do anything. If I hit File, New Product, it doesn't do anything. File, Edit, doesn't do anything. Save, load, exit. So it's basically just a husk right now, right? It's because we haven't added functionality. We've just dealt with the user interface. Pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to close that. In this lecture, we've established the user interface that we're going to use. It looks pretty nice, but as you've seen, it doesn't really do anything yet. So what we need to remedy in the next lecture will be adding some basic functionality. I'll see you there.